Thank you for joining me for this August 2024 Rune reading, where I focus a little bit on the general themes that are dominant in the upcoming month. I am recording this on the 24th of July. Now let me just share the image with you. Here we are. Okay. Going to see if I can make that bigger. Yes, I can. There we are, ready to roll. I had to hesitate there with the changes that are present in Zoom now. So to come to the runes for August, and we all know, of course, that there have been tremendous upheavals and that in many ways it feels as though we are now in a new time, or at least it does to me. And I know that a lot of people that I have spoken to have this feeling that we've entered a new phase that we kind of didn't know for sure until we were in it. And that doesn't matter whether we take any interest in the overall political changes in the UK, and of course, what has happened with Donald Trump and the situation with Biden pulling back from the candidacy. I am not somebody that focuses overly on that, but of course I am aware of world news and how these big changes are happening and how that makes us feel. The previous public reading that I did was for took place for the summer solstice, and there was indeed indications there that from the middle to the latter part of July and even into August, there would be quite a lot that was unexpected, quite a lot that brought with it a feeling of upheaval and unsettlement in a way. So to come to these runes, on the left and very positive, we have Othel, also known as Othilla. It's traditionally associated with inheritance and land and heritage and wisdom. And it is in its most positive orientation, its upright position, which indicates that sustenance and feelings of well-being can be sourced from the sense of heritage, the wisdom that comes from there, the wisdom of the past. But the wisdom of the past and the ways of the past can only be of value when they are adapted for present times. But there are many resources that can be found within heritage, within the wisdom that we have grown up with, that has been passed through generations and adapted to suit them. And also sometimes the wisdoms and particularly the strengths that have developed even in the distant past, because we know that when our ancestors have come through hard times, there is a strength that is passed on genetically. There is a way of adapting. There are certain aspects that come forwards. For example, those whose ancestors had to move to another land in very difficult times because they needed to escape from a situation that was too limiting or too dangerous or not offering enough. Usually, the generations that come forth after will find it easier to adapt to that sort of major change, because there is something that is left in them, even if there's something that is inherited, in other words, even if the stories are not passed on. So we all have strengths within us. We all have a history which will contain turbulent times. because all lives are like that. And we should remember that the times we are living in are very different, but they are not worse than the times of the past. They are just different, bringing different challenges, different things to be overcome, different capacities for learning, for growth, for soul growth, but for the growth of us as individuals, as societies, of what we can learn, that we can take forwards. And there are indications of the sort of challenges that are coming to the fore in August, in the next two runes, the rune in the middle in particular, Our, also known as Yera, is associated with the harvest and the year, and harvesting a good year. And indeed, it asks the questions in the reversed orientation in which it has fallen. It asks the question, was the year good enough? Has the harvest that societies, groups, individuals, nations, and humanity collectively been good enough? And we are not simply talking about growing things and food, very, very important though that is. And the 1st of August is, of course, also the festival, the celebration, the tradition of Lammas, part of the pagan wheel of the year, but it is also part of many agricultural societies to celebrate this early harvest, the harvest that comes early, for example, in Great Britain, in Ireland, of places of a similar climate, when we know there will also be a later harvest. But to come back to the runes, with Our in this position, it is telling us really about what didn't work well enough, what is still not working well enough, what needs to change, what needs to be let go of. When this is in its upright position, I see it as two hands working together for the coming year. When it's in the reverse position, I see it as two hands that need to come apart. They need to separate. And this tells us, what is it? To ask the question, what is it that we need to let go of it? What is it that we need to move on from? What is it that is not serving us well? And when this comes up, particularly with the rune on the right, then there tends to be sufficient reaction that change has to come about. On the right, we have Isa, again in its reversed position. In its positive position, it is about being steadfast and being determined, and determination winning the day, provided we have been wise about what we have got determined about. But when it falls this way, it is literally like a hard line in the sand, a hard barrier. So the indication is that with August, things are going to have to be looked at in a different way, of the barriers that need to be there. Because I feel at the moment, as I drew these runes and first looked at them, that Othila, talking about our resources, is talking about our resources for these times. But Isa in the reverse position, it's about ice, it's about coldness, it's about, in a way, throwing cold water on different ideas, pursuing regardless, but not getting anywhere. So Our and Isa very much work together, whilst Othel points the way forwards. But the benefit of Is and the benefit of Our, but especially of Is in this position, is in a way pointing out what needs to change, Where are barriers useful? Where do barriers need to be adapted or moved so that they will become more useful? Where will people also feel that cold water has been poured upon their hopes? This is also always an important question when East appears in this position. And for how long will people accept in some situations that they just have to be endlessly patient and it will all come right in the end? What these runes are collectively suggesting is that the importance of looking for ways to make it come right, that are step aside in a way from some existing barriers, because barriers that have been useful, they tend to be clung onto, whether by us in an individual situation. We might have found that determination, for example, has helped us tremendously with something that we were doing. So when we get a problem of a similar nature, we throw determination at it. But sometimes determination is not the best way. Sometimes a different instrument or a different tool is needed. And the overriding theme here really is Othila is saying, look deeply into what you already have, the wisdom that you have, and project it forwards and see where those ideas, where applying new ideas to that can be helpful to you. Our is saying there's a lot that hasn't worked and that needs to be looked at more. And East is showing a barrier here in a way that needs to be examined, because we do need barriers, make no mistake, but sometimes they literally just get in the way without serving any useful purpose. And these are the questions that I feel are rising to the fore more in many places, not just in the United Kingdom, Western Europe, Northern Europe, or America, but in many places. Where is there enthusiasm and possibilities for positive change? Where cold water is being poured upon them with the insistence, no, that cannot change. But sometimes that is exactly what life is inviting us to do. And when I think of Odin, I'm also thinking about the earth, about the land, and the issues of land and land rights are very important and are likely to be coming to the fore in a greater way in August, more from the perspective of how these can be handled, how what people take from their own land, from their own heritage, can be more of value, how it can be part of the important melting pot that all of humanity sits into, is one of the challenges that is having to be faced going forwards. But not just in August, of course, in the years and decades and perhaps a longer time ahead. But there is something here that is coming to the fore, coming under the magnifying glass a bit more in August. But for the issue of land, I feel that this situation where we have had rather a lot of natural disasters is one that is unfortunately continuing. And there will be, I feel, one or two of these that we have to take notice of a little bit more in August, have to think about how we look at these things for the future. So these are the thoughts that I would like to leave with you. I do offer personal readings, both rune readings, where when I read the runes for an individual, we do an overview reading and we can look at specific areas to gain ideas on those or understandings that you would like to look at. And we look at the likelihoods for the future, bearing in mind that some things you can change. Sometimes there are a lot of choice points in a reading and you can change things quite a lot. Other times, of course, life acts on us and the runes indicate strong likelihoods rather than certainties, although the themes indicated for an individual or in a general reading like this are usually very meaningful. They may manifest in ways that are a little bit different to how you anticipated. Other times, it all fits around. If you would like to get in touch with me, my website is K Cook Spirit Wings, and you can find my contact details there. I am just going to cease the screen share now. I think I'm able to do it. Let me see. No, I'm not able to stop share. Why didn't I see that? I'm all flummoxed by the way that the Zoom system has changed a little bit, but I am getting used to it, although as soon as I get used to one change, something else occurs. Thank you for joining me.